Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 100. So here we are, number 100, and I started out this series with this book, which is Spirit Intercourse, Hewat McKenzie. And I wanted to explain why this book is important and why books like this are important. So, first of all, we're talking about Neo-Swedenborgianism. Neo-Swedenborgianism is a 9-syllable word. Neo-Swedenborgianism. It has a soft G like George. Neo-Swedenborgianism. Neo-Swedenborgianism. And as I say here, there's a big difference between a gorge and a George. This is a George. To look at something Neo-Swedenborgianistically is to use an 11-syllable word. And this goes against the monosyllabic trend, which is dumbing down and enfeebling our world. So if you don't like the way the kind of catchphrase world we live in, where everybody has some little three-syllable word, three-word monosyllabic catchphrase, this goes against that trend. I don't like that trend either because it affects your thinking, and your thinking is very important. So I want to connect here with number 100. This is the same porch where I introduced number 1, and I introduced this book. And I want to tie together these loose threads and connect these dots, because with number 101 we're gonna kind of take the ball and run. So, page 201. Now this book you can find online in its entirety. So I'm on page 201. The new superphysical, super meaning above, continents. Superphysical continents. And Hewat McKenzie says, while studying the geographical map of spirit spheres, readers should hold continually in mind that these spheres are interior states existing within the physical atmosphere around our Earth. They do not, therefore, present any barrier to the sun's physical rays. See maps on page 197 and 198. That, and if you want to see it, find the book online. Hewat McKenzie, Spirit Intercourse. Psychic science, he continues, is educating men to regard the physical world as the outhouse of existence, where the human spirit is most nearly dead, being buried within matter too crude to allow full manifestation of that spirit. Man must therefore learn to adjust his consciousness to a realization of this fact, and to perceive that reality does not lie in the outer physical matter, either of the earth or of superphysical spheres, but in something within himself, something within ourselves. When once this is realized, his education will proceed rapidly, but previous to this, he may be regarded as one asleep, living in the dark ages of the senses, with whom it is impossible to discuss reality, for it is beyond his comprehension. So I want to make a point regarding this, the human spirit being buried within matter too crude to allow full manifestation of that spirit. So here in Chicago, oftentimes people drive by and they honk, right? So when you're in a car, your vocabulary is limited. You have a car horn, what can you say with the car horn? You know, you can say beep beep, see you later, or beep beep, get out of the way. You have a vocabulary of about maybe tops 15 different phrases. You can say or da-da-da-da. There's not that much you can say, but there are some things you can say. And so if you look at your spirit in this vehicle here, and you equate that metaphorically, it becomes kind of a situation where your ability to express yourself is extremely limited. So we are complex spirits in these bodies, and we can express ourselves to a limited degree, similar to how we can express ourselves when we're inside a car. So once you keep getting in, and farther in these things, your ability to express yourself gets more and more limited. So in your car it's limited, in your body it's limited, outside your body it's less limited. So I've mentioned this idea of hyper-reality. And hyper-reality is a phrase I coined to describe a state of mind that other people talk about. So I didn't invent this idea of hyper-reality. But we've talked about the near-death experience, and people come back and they talk about something being more real than real, or more real than this world here. And sometimes you hear the phrase intellectual honesty. And I take these people as being intellectually honest, and this is kind of where my path diverges with a lot of other people debating this subject, because a lot of people think that they've been fooled, or they're trying to fool us, and I just accept that they are being honest, and they perceived what to them appeared to be a greater reality, because you hear this phrase more real than real quite a bit. And if you see something more real than real, if you are intellectually honest, you will say this was more real than real. And it makes this reality seem like a shadow world, is what people say. So, the big opposition says, well, it only exists in your head. Okay? So, if we look at this sentence, it only exists in your head. If you boil that down, you get this. It exists. To say it only exists in your head is to say it exists. Now, what do I mean by it? I mean this hyper-reality. So, I, through looking at all this near-death experience studies, have to accept that I have about a 5% chance of experiencing this hyper-reality. Because it's just a part of the human condition, it's part of the human physiology, it's something that happens to humans sometimes. And I've contrasted it with mesothelioma, which is a rare cancer, which happens about 5 per million people. And I have a chance of getting that, as does anyone else. And I have the chance of experiencing this hyper-reality, which is to say experiencing something that usurps my entire view of what's real. I have a 5% chance of experiencing that, approximately, and that's 10,000 times greater than my chances of getting mesothelioma. Now, as I've said, I've not had this experience, but I've seen enough of it and read enough about it to conclude that I have as good a chance as anyone at having it. You know, I did not have a religious upbringing, but I live in a civilization, in a society, that religion is a part of it. So, how did this get back to J. Hewat McKenzie? Is that this world has already really been explored. At one time it was just Swedenborg talking about this. So that's just one guy, so you can dismiss that. That was in the 1700s, and in the 1800s, the spiritualists took this ball and they described it at great length, and they imagined about it, and they thought about it, and they wrote about it. And then around Houdini's time, spiritualism was debunked. But now, in our time, we have a different situation where people are being resuscitated, and they're describing a similar state of mind. And so, what this does is, it puts this spiritualist literature, it shines a different light on it. For example, another good book in the genre is Wanderer in the Spirit Lands by Francezzo. And I'll see if I can find a link, and I'll link it in the comments below. But the conclusion we get to is that we have this potential to experience this world, a hyper-real world, which is to say someplace that experientially to us is more real than this world we're in right now. And if you read accounts of this world, they fall into this kind of spiritualist afterlife template. So Swedenborg said it was a real place. These people say it's a real place. I'm not saying it's a real place. I'm saying it's only in your head. But when you experience it as real. So there's kind of this indistinguishable from reality. And as such, you can study it and look at it and think about it and imagine what it might be like for you and imagine what it might be like for someone else. So, that's Neo-Swedenborgianism in a nutshell. And from now on, I'm not really going to defend it anymore. I'm just going to talk about it based on this framework. So, welcome. Thanks for listening. See you in 101 soon.